Hi everyone, it's Sorkin. Today we have a problem when we are given a string s that contains only opening and the closing parentheses. We need to make a minimum number of moves required to make s valid. So what's that mean? So for example, in this case, s has one opening parentheses and the two closing parentheses. So it means that we need to add one more opening parentheses here in order to make it valid. That's why we are returning 1. So how about the second example? In the second example, we have 3 opening parentheses and we need to add 3 closing parentheses here to make it valid. So we are returning 3. So how we're going to solve this problem? We are going to go over our string only once, and we are going to maintain 2 variables. One is, let's call them open parentheses. So we are basically going to count the number of the opening parentheses. And the other one is that let's call it minimum add, the minimum number of the parentheses that we are going to add. So let's go over our example step by step. So let's say we have 1 opening and 2 closing, right? So we are first going over our string, the first character, and we are increasing the opening. How many opening parentheses we have? We have 1 opening parentheses, and let's go to the next character. Next character is that we have opening parentheses, so which means that we have corresponding parentheses for these closing parentheses. So we are subtracting from 1, so now we have 0 opening parentheses, right? Because these 2 makes a pair. So now let's go to the next one. Next one is a closing parentheses, but our opening parentheses is equals to 0. What it means? It means that we need to add at least 1 opening parentheses, right? To make it valid. So we are going to increase our minimum add, and we are going to return 1 in this case. So let's go to the next one. So in this example, again, we have opening parentheses here, right? Opening parentheses and parentheses and the minimum add, 2 variables that we are maintaining, right? Minimum add. So let's go over this string one more time. So we have 3 opening parentheses, right? So we are going over our string, so we are increasing our opening parentheses 1, right? Now we are going to the next, so we are incrementing that to 2, and we are incrementing that to 3. So now we have 3 opening parentheses, and we are at the end of our string. So what it means? It means that we have 3 opening parentheses, and but we don't have any corresponding closing parentheses for that. So we are going to return 3 because this is how many characters, how many parentheses we need in order to make this whole string valid, right? So at the end, we are going to return not the minimum add or opening parentheses. We are going to return open parentheses plus minimum add, right? Minimum add. So one more time, what we are going to do here. So we are going over our string only once, and we are maintaining 2 variables, open parentheses and minimum add. And we are counting that if, let's say, we are increasing our open parentheses, right? If we have closing parentheses, then we are subtracting from open parentheses because we found the corresponding closing parentheses for it. If not, if we don't have open parentheses, so it means that we need to increase our minimum add. The same way we are at the end, if we have, let's say, 3 opening parentheses, so it means that we need to add 3 more closing parentheses in order to make the whole string valid. And in this case, our time complexity is of n, right? Because we are going over our string only once. And our space complexity is of 1 because we are not using an extra space. Okay, so what we do here, the first thing is we are creating 2 variables, open parentheses and the minimum add, and we are going over our string. So if it's an opening character, opening parentheses, then in that case we are incrementing opening parentheses. And if it's a closing parentheses, so what we do in that case, what we do is if our opening parentheses is equals to 0, it means that we don't have any corresponding opening parentheses for the for closing parentheses for the opening parentheses. So we are increasing our minimum add. If we have, then in that case, we are just subtracting from decrementing our opening parentheses. At the end, we are returning, as we have seen earlier, right? So we are returning minimum add plus opening parentheses. In case of Java, the implementation is exactly the same as we have seen in the Python. So we are creating two variables, open parentheses and the minimum add. We are going over our string. And if we have opening parentheses, then we are incrementing our opening parentheses. If that is the closing parenthesis, so what we do in that case, we are checking that if our opening parenthesis, whether or not our opening parenthesis is equals to 0. If it equals to 0, so it means that we don't have any opening parentheses that might be corresponding to the closing parentheses. So in that case, we are incrementing our minimum add. If we have, then in that case, we are just decrementing opening parentheses, and at the end, we are returning minimum parentheses plus opening parentheses. So that's it. And the time and space complexity for these solutions is, as we have seen earlier, of n for the time complexity, because we are going over our string only once, and the space complexity is constant because we are not using any extra space. That's it for today. I also have the solutions in the JavaScript, Go, C++, and Scala, and I will include that in the description below. If you like my content, please hit the like button and subscribe my channel. See you next time. Bye.